Have you faced a medical issue and now your medical bills are potentially stacking up? Are you getting constant collection calls and now you're starting to feel overwhelmed? We're going to cover all of that, what you can do, and much more. So let's get right into it. Welcome to Ascend Finance's YouTube channel, where we cover debt collections and help you understand the costs, pros, and cons to help you be more informed and get out of the debt cheaper, easier, and faster. My name is Justin, and let's get into it. In this video, I'm going to cover what happens if you don't pay medical bills. And with that said though, this is not legal advice, but truly just for information only. So I'm going to go through how to deal with medical bills and collection agencies, how to negotiate on your medical bills, different debt relief options. So let's get started. So starting with how to deal with medical debt and collection agencies. So when a hospital turns over medical debt to a collection agency, it is that agency that reports the debt. Agencies have the right to report the debt to the credit bureaus immediately upon actually receiving them. So when the collection agency receives the debt report, I believe it is required that they wait a 180-day period before adding your medical debt to your credit history. So after this period of time, collection agencies have the right to list your debt in public records or file it onto your credit report. This impact on your credit score is generally quite damaging, and until the medical bill is actually paid, it should remain as unpaid for 7 years. Unfortunately, if you are still making a payment towards your debt, collection agencies can still report it. There are going to be options though to deal with this medical debt, whether it's negotiating or something else. And so that's where I would say you can take our free debt relief calculator that I actually linked in the description below. We built the calculator with you in mind. And so what I mean by that is we understand that everyone's situation is unique, right? And so it's helpful to understand what the options would look like for you specifically. So I can go on and on telling you what debt settlement is and how it works, but it'd be much more helpful if you could see what the cost, what the pros, and what the cons would look like for your data specifically. And so that's why we built the calculator, and it'll help you understand, what the cost breakdown for the different options are and the pros and cons. But also to take it a step further, that's why I'm here. That's why we're here. And so you can give us a call, you can text us at 833-272-3631. And the idea there is we can help review the results with you. We can go through your options as we understand it's unique to you. And so if you're not comfortable taking the calculator, which is totally fine, we don't actually even ask for an email address. Now you can put it in if you'd like your results emailed, but nevertheless, if you want to just chat with us and go through your situation, I'd be more than happy to. Give us a call. You can call us or you can text us and we can just schedule you out. So no worries at all there. Nevertheless, feel free to take the calculator. Let's go on and kind of go through a high level of what the options look like for now. So one thing is you can negotiate for less than owed. So if you ever settled any kind of other unsecured debt, medical debt is generally going to be the same, is you're going to try to settle for less. So for the most part, you'll want to get in touch with the collection agency. You can ask them what the offers are there to settle the account, see what they're willing to do right off the bat to get this account resolved and settled. They may, start with a 50% offer. So basically, let's say you owe them $10,000, but they're saying, hey, this has been in collections for a while. We're willing to have you pay $5,000 lump sum and handle it. Now, most times they'll also allow you to do a payment agreement as well, whether you pay it over a year or 2 years, but that would be something to bring up with them. Now, let's say you want to negotiate disputed debts. You may want to consider disputing your debt if, for instance, your insurance was supposed to pay for it and you were not aware of the debt until it was transferred to collections. So if this actually applies to you, you should have about 30 days to dispute the medical debt. During this time specifically, the collection agency does not have the right to any collection. There is a catch though, as reporting the debt to the credit bureaus does not count as debt collection. If your disputed debt is accepted, you can negotiate for it to be removed from your credit report. So, touching on kind of something I noted to earlier, but now I want to go in more depth of negotiating for a lump sum or a structured settlement. So settling medical debt can definitely be a viable option. Like I said before, they can either be a lump sum payment or maybe a payment plan over time. Collection agencies generally have some sort of incentive to accept lump sums, is at least a guarantee that they'll receive something versus nothing. Just like that, a structured settlement may, let's say, roll out over a year. There's still an incentive for them to take that versus taking nothing if you don't pay it, or maybe if you look at the route of a bankruptcy, but it just depends. Now, let's talk about medical hardship help with debt relief specifically. So we will go into details about your debt relief options. Just for context, there's pros and cons to every option, right? And so these should all be considered before taking any kind of action. Now, let's say, you want to settle the debt, but you want to work with a company. So first of all, before entering into a debt settlement agreement, you want to make sure that you actually have a legitimate medical hardship. So now with debt settlement, similarly to what I've said before, now this is where I would say you're working with a company. So some folks have medical bills and they want to get it settled, but they're not comfortable doing it themselves. They don't feel comfortable calling the collectors. And so you can work with a company. They'll generally charge you a fee. Now this fee is actually legally bound. They're not technically allowed to take their fee until they've reached a settlement with whoever they're negotiating with. And what I mean by that is this: you are paying this debt settlement company one monthly payment. Where that monthly payment's going is actually a escrow account. And that escrow account is holding the funds. And they're building up this escrow account with enough funds so they can reach a settlement with the creditor. Now, within your monthly payment each month they account for the fee for the debt settlement company. So yeah, you're paying it each month, but they're not actually allowed to take their fee from the account until they've reached a settlement. But not to overcomplicate things, my point is you can do debt settlement, you can get the accounts settled and these medical bills handled through settling, but you don't have to do it yourself. You could work with a company, but there's a lot to understand with that. We actually put together a bunch of videos on debt settlement and kind of what to look for. So I highly encourage you look into those first, but just at a high level, you're going to want to look at the fees they're charging you, but also the reviews. So you can check on BBB, you can check on Google. You want to see, do they have mainly interesting reviews? Are they mainly highly rated reviews? And you want to look across multiple platforms to make sure it's unbiased. Okay, now with that said, I want to touch on debt management. So debt management's more so can be helpful to reduce the unsecured debt in terms of interest rates. So this is less for medical bills, but more so for credit cards. And so if you do have, let's say, high interest credit cards, enrolling into a debt management program can be helpful. I'd say it's most of the times more geared towards individuals that can afford the monthly payments for the most part, but it's just you're paying towards interest each month versus principal. And that should preserve your credit score a little bit more versus potentially debt settlement. So another option is potentially bankruptcy. And so the question is, should you file for bankruptcy for medical debt? So with that said, many people can be overwhelmed by medical bills and to the point where maybe they're actually seeing a debt collection lawsuit. Well, whatever status you're at, it can be helpful to compare between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. From a high level, Chapter 7 is the liquidation bankruptcy. Once you filed it, you may get your discharge in about 120 days. And from there, you should be on your merry way to start rebuilding your credit score again. If you do not qualify for a 7 or for any other reason, it makes sense to do a 13. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy is more geared on a restructure of the debt. So sometimes you'll pay 10% of the debt back, sometimes you pay 100% back. It just is really relative for the most part to your income and expenses. There are a few other factors too, but for the most part, it's income and expenses. So I definitely hope this video was helpful. And as I'm sure you probably do have questions, feel free to give us a call or you can shoot us a text at 833-272-3631. Also, feel free to leave a comment down below, as I'm sure there are other folks with a similar question. Thanks again for watching. I'm always here if you have questions.